Before the Haitian Revolution and all the violence that came with it, one man could see the future very clearly. His name was Vincent Oge, and he tried to stop this revolution before it got started by warning France that if they didn't make drastic changes now, their most profitable colony would burn. Oge took matters into his own hands, and for acting on this, he would be tortured to death just months before the revolution exploded. So the place that this all went down at, Saint-Domingue, was a French colony that would eventually become Haiti after the Haitian Revolution. This was the most successful slave revolt in history. I've got another episode about it. I'll link below if you want to know a little bit more. But anyway, this conflict would leave hundreds of thousands dead and have multiple nations involved before leading to the first Black Republic in the modern world. In short, this colony was destined for some sort of trouble because it depended on the labor of hundreds of thousands of slaves brought over from Africa, while being controlled from a white population about a tenth of that size. And then there was another subset of people on this island who were free blacks and mixed race people. And Vincent Oge belonged to this group. These were the people who had mixed race parents or were freed by other means and were allowed to privately acquire wealth and work, even though they were still not treated as equals by other whites on the island. Their situation was far better than the slaves. So Oge was a pretty successful, wealthy dude. He had a white father, and his mother was a free woman of color. He had a good job and an education. But he was treated as inferior by the white population of the island, despite his higher social and economic status. And that really pissed him off. Now, in 1790, it just so happened that France was going through a lot of change. And it was full of people that were willing to listen to his cause for the first time. So Oge used this opportunity to travel to Paris and advocate for his cause. He started hanging around a French society called the Society of the Friends of the Blacks, and he spoke before the National Assembly about his ideas of what was going to go wrong in Saint-Domingue. He's recorded to have said to them, quote, "If we do not take the most prompt and efficacious measures, we will see blood flowing, our lands invaded, the objects of our industry ravaged, and our homes burnt. We will see our neighbors, our friends, our wives, our children with their throats cut and their bodies mutilated. The slave will rise the standard of revolt, and the islands will be but a baleful conflagration. Commerce will be ruined, France will receive a mortal wound, and a multitude of honest citizens will be impoverished and ruined. We will lose everything." End quote. So Oge argued that the white slaveholders in Saint-Domingue needed free black and mixed race men like him as allies in order to keep the slave population in check. And in exchange, he wanted full rights, voting, equality, all that stuff. Now, this isn't exactly a Martin Luther King-esque vision, but it was a different time. Well, the National Assembly liked what he had to say. And after a few years, they would actually go one step further and free the slaves living in the French colonies entirely, which would be an extremely positive step. But in the meantime, while that is in motion, Oge comes back to Saint-Domingue. And when he shows up, he demands the voting rights, which were promised to him and soon be passed by the National Assembly. But the governor of the island basically puts him off, essentially telling him that the decisions made by some faraway National Assembly that was full of radicals would carry no weight on his island. Oge was livid, so he gets a few hundred men and he tries to overthrow the government, as one does. Now, their budding revolution did not last long. This militia managed to fend off the French army for only about a month or so before Oge was forced to flee into neighboring Santo Domingo, the Spanish territory on the island. And when he thought he was safe there, he was backstabbed and arrested and given back to French authorities. A few months later, in February 1791, Oge would be used to set an example of what would happen to those who dared to stand up to power in Saint-Domingue. He was brought to the town square and he was sentenced to death, but not a quick, normal death. It was going to be a medieval torture that is hard to imagine happening in the Age of Enlightenment. Oge was broken on the wheel, which basically meant tying a person to a wheel and systematically breaking every limb of that person's body from head to toe in a lengthy, agonizing process. After his death, his head was cut off and driven through a pike and erected in the town square. And then the governor basically thought that this would be enough to dissuade anyone from any ideas about revolution on the island. But he couldn't have been more wrong. Oge's death ended up radicalizing a population that was already in turmoil. At this time, there was already plots in motion for a revolt, and this just poured fuel on the fire. The would-be revolutionaries rightly thought that if Oge, a genteel, wealthy, half-white man, couldn't bring about change, then no one could. And so later that year, the first phase of the Haitian Revolution was underway. And over the next decade, a very long and bloody conflict would erupt that changed the course of history. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, it'd be really helpful if you can like, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.